Hello everybody, it's Noah here from AudioCube, and you are watching the AudioCube complete tutorial video. In this video I'll show you everything you need to know about AudioCube and help you get the most out of the features. And when you open the app for the first time, you'll see the login screen. Here you just enter your username and password to sign in, or run in trial mode if you don't have an account yet. If you want to buy an account, click on Get License, where you will be prompted to buy a subscription or a license, and then you can authenticate your account. Simply enter your username, email, password, click Authenticate, and then you can log in. Note that this will only work with the email that you paid for the account with. When you have your account, simply type it in here, click Remember Me, and click Sign In. This will also let you use it offline after you've activated your license for the first time. Right, let's get stuck in. The first thing I'll show you is how to move around AudioCube. So you can use S, W, A and D, or the arrow keys to move your position. You can also hold right click and drag the mouse to move. You can then use the scroll wheel or R and F to move up and down. And then you can rotate your camera with Q and E, or Z and X. Alternatively, hold V or the middle mouse button, V for view, to give yourself a free look where you can just move the mouse to look around, and then release to go back into editing mode. So that's the basics of movement in AudioCube. Let's just go into the settings now. We'll put the graphics up. You've got a few other options here like UI scaling. I like to have it around here. You can then click save to save your settings here, and then load or reset to go to the default. You have a brightness, and you can cap the frames per second. Reason for performance basically. And you've got a few other links, and you can see the keyboard shortcuts. So that's the settings menu. Next we have the navigation bar. This is where you find all the features and interfaces. So you have the file menu for saving, loading, creating new projects. The library menu for managing your audio files within the app. The create menu where you can create the new devices by dragging and dropping the icons. The three panels buttons here open the various panels for your devices. You have the samplers, emitters and tickers. Note that you can open and close these just by right clicking the device, and you can press escape to close all the panels. Next we have the timeline, which you can use to sequence samplers. You simply put in the time. This will be explained fully later in the tutorial, but you can enter the BPM, the length of the sequence, and you can see the times here and start and play. The mixer, you have an 8-channel mixer with 4 send effects, which they'll be explained fully later for this, and a mastering rack with a color unit, a reverb unit, a compressor, and a 5-band parametric equalizer for adjusting the final output. When you come to record, which is up here, I'll go through all of these individually in more detail. You can open the help center with this one, And you can see the console log here, which just shows you all the activity relating to the project. This shows you a waveform when a sound is playing. As you can see, this changes the mic position between this microphone or the camera. When this is green, it's being used through the mic, otherwise it's just this toggles the overhead text. This is your light and dark mode. And this opens chat and support. You can send me an email here or open the Discord. And here's my email address. And then the settings, which I've explained already. And you have a master volume control. So that explains the basic navigation. All of these also have hotkeys, which is the F buttons from F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, or tab for the mixer, F8 for mastering, and control comma for the settings. And that sums up the general navigation of the user interface. Now let's look at the audio library of AudioCube. This is how you manage your audio files. Simply click the library button and you'll see the library interface, which can be moved with shift click, like any of the other user panels. Here you'll see a list of your audio files and you can preview them with a volume control and a loop. And you can also scrub through, which is useful for longer sounds. To add audio here, you simply click the folder button, which then opens up the Cube library folder, which is located here inside the installation directory. So just drag and drop audio files, WAV files, into this folder to add them into AudioCube, and when they're in here, just click the refresh button and you'll see them all appear. You can delete them by pressing backspace and click, and then delete, but that doesn't send them to your recycle bin and deletes them permanently, so just be careful. That's the basics of the audio library. From here you can either drag and drop them to create a sampler, or with emitters, which will be explained later, you simply open the UI by right-clicking. Any of them can be right-clicked to open, and then just drag and drop. So that sums up the basics of importing audio and creating audio devices. Now let's have a look at some of the devices in more detail. The first device we're going to look at is the sampler. A sampler, simply drag in a sound from your sound library, like so, or you can create a blank sampler from here. Right click to then choose the sound that you want to load in. Samplers are similar to typical samplers in DAWs and hardware, but instead are simulated in a 3D space. Press space and click to play, and P to play and stop. Here you see a range of controls. You can loop, So when it reaches the end, it restarts. You can change the start and end position. Change the pitch. With octaves. Change the volume. Manually change the pitch. And stop, play. You can also sequence them with the timeline, where you put in the start time, and then say beat 1. But I'll explain that more later. They also have effect. Click the effects button. Now these are independent from the mixer and are independent for each device. So these are settings that will only affect this device. You can move them by clicking and dragging, and you can copy and paste or clone them by holding C and clicking to create a new instance, which you can then use to stack notes. You can also change the mixer channel. From 0 to 7 corresponding to these. So this one is on channel 2. This one's on channel 0. And these can also be sequenced with the ticker, which will be explained later, but you just connect them. So that pretty much sums up the sampler device. Oh, you can also delete them by pressing backspace and clicking. Let's have a look at the next device. The other main device in AudioCube is an emitter. You simply create these up here, the emitter icon. By default, they don't have any sounds loaded. Simply right click and you'll see the emitter UI, or click up here and then click on the emitter to select it. You'll know it's selected when it has the green outline. These can also be duplicated with C. And then to load a sound, open up your library and just drag a sample across. And you'll then see it loaded here. Press space with your mouse over and it will create a physics ball which triggers the sound whenever it collides. They are set default to having 5 lives, but you can change this to have it many you want. They lose a life each time they hit. And when they lose all their lives, they wait until the sample ends and they'll be deleted. You can clear them all here. The drag is the gravity effect. Higher values create more resistance, and lower values have less resistance. Obviously, you'll be looking at the keyboard and thinking, what happens there? Well, as you would expect, you can simply select the notes, and each time it bounces, it selects a random note from here. I should mention that these are also velocity sensitive, so the harder it hits, the louder its sound is. And these are just toggled on and off. So for instance, you might have one on high, one on low. These are also passed into the mixer. By default, they're on channel 7. But you can set them to any channel you want. That pretty much sums up the basics of the emitters, but they get really interesting when you combine them with the tickers. Let's have a look at these. So a ticker is a device which gives a sequencing signal. You create them up here, the clock, and you right click to open the UI. And the way they work is they send a tick signal which will trigger a selected device. Hold Control and click on a device to connect it, and Control click again to disconnect. And every 2 seconds, or however many you supply in here, it sends a signal to do the action. And you can press space to turn it on and off. Obviously, shorter tick times. Let's just turn the master volume down a bit there. You can also sequence samplers. They can also sequence other tickers, which is quite interesting. So when the tick goes on, it activates it. When the next tick, it turns it off. And pre-tick is kind of a delay. I mean, just experiment with these. AudioCube comes with a 7-channel mixer, which can be assigned. You can just choose the channels for various devices independently through that interface. And it has a drive, preamp, three-band EQ, and you can reset these with Alt and click. And it has 4 effect sends: reverb, echo, modulation, and compressor, which again have their own EQ and can be controlled in more detail. The effect sends are on pre, which means even with the volume of the channel off, they still get sent through, just because this gives you a bit more creative option. AudioCube comes with a mastering rack, which just gives you a bit more to play with. Has a colour device. Of reverb, a compressor, and a 5-band parametric equalizer from low to high. This just gives you a bit more control over the final signal, and is also important when it comes to recording. AudioCube comes with a built-in recording device, which is opened up here. Simply click record. You can set the recording volume. You can see the metering. And then click stop. You can see a recording here, you can press play to play back. or press open folder, and it will open the recording location. It's a bit buggy, so when it gets distorted it changes the pitch, but I'll try and fix that. You can save your project by clicking File, Save As. Click Save. Okay, something's gone wrong here, my bad. Usually it works, I think it's from deleting something. And then open. You can open project, you can open your folder, and it will restore your mixes. The sequencing timeline lets you create sequence loops. Currently it only works with samplers, so let's get a couple in. Here you set the BPM and the length of beats in the loop. You can see here the countdown. Let's put it up to 120 BPM. Now you can change the sequencing position of the timing here. So 0 is on the start, 1 is the first beat. So let's do a 4-bar loop. It's a bit confusing because obviously 0 is what we're used to call beat 1, but you get used to it. And that's the basics of the sequencer. So yeah, that is AudioCube in a nutshell. This has been a very messy tutorial, and obviously the app itself is still in early-ish days. I mean, it's been developed for about 4 years now, just by myself. So progress has been pretty quick and slow at points. Yeah, finally feel like it's ready to share. So if you have any feedback, please get in touch through the contact form up here. Just drop me an email or message me on Discord. And hopefully you enjoy the software as much as I do, because it's pretty fun. Let's just have a little jam to end the session.